Hello, and welcome to the next viewer requested game analysis. That hasn't been done for a long time, but I got an email from a person named Jalen. So this person wants me to analyze the game. So they also had a note that said, I want to play the hippo. I got totally destroyed. And after this game, I'll show you, I'll change my opening because I did not do well. I got destroyed with it. So I think that I looked over the game, and I think the problem is that is not the opening choice. Opening choice, the hippo is not the problem. The problem is something extra special that I'll be teaching you today that to not to do that anymore. No matter what opening choice you do, if you do this problem, I'll say a pain point, no matter what opening choice you have, it'll follow you forever. You want to know what this is and never do it again. If you do that, you can play the hippo. You can do whatever, but just don't do this, let's say, very bad thing. So, white played e4, and basically Jalen follows the hippo setup. The hippo setup is something like feeding care of the bishops here. I had the bishop on g7 and b7. Pawns are e6, d6. That's going in e7, d7, and also the pawns from a7 go to a6, and the pawn a6 go to a6. This is a hippo setup. So this is how the game will go. So after this, d4, bishop e7, knight f3, e6, h4, trying to be really aggressive, but Jalen knew better because h5, then g5. That's a typical hippo sort of strategy. So knight c3, g6, bishop e3, knight e7, bishop d3, b6 now, queen d2, bishop b7. Now the two Federico bishops are on the squares. Castle's queen side, knight d7, king b1 to be safe, a6, knight a4. This is where the pawn from white did a really bad move, basically saying, I will skip my turn twice, and I get blocked the initiative. So white should be trying to go for advantage against the hippo, but instead, he did a really bad, let's say, maneuver. Basically, knights on the rim or edge of the board are dim, grim, what you want to call it. And not only that, we skip 2 turns for white, and that will be telling you that, I'll tell you, that black will have initiative. Initiative is basically control of the game. You can control white's movements more than white can do the opposite to control black's movements. So b5 happened, which is a good move from Jalen. c5 is actually an excellent move. Takes there, trade the pawns, and a3, which is called a hook. Eventually, not right now, b4 will be leading to opening up the king or lines by force. If they don't take the pawn b4, then you can take on a3, Jalen. But this is where things go wrong. b4 was actually played too quickly. So what needed to learn is that when you're having a hook, you don't need to just spring upon it right away. There's also a limit of development. Development and basically the weakest hook will never go away. It's not going to be reverting to a2, pawn to a2 from a3. That's not Harry Potter. This is actually chess. So bishop c6 is probably preferred, or rook b8. And basically these two moves and then b4 will be actually the way to win the game. Basically, this is a 1-2 punch. Don't rush. Don't rush the execution. But b4 is played hastily, and white can actually have some comeback because they're going to get the pawn. Maybe a5 was the thing that could have been played, but was never been to be. But queen c7 also is a move that's good. Rook b8 is a move that is possible, but Jalen decided to do knight c6, which is awkward because it blocks the bishop from doing it. This knight is misplaced, and the b4 pawn was gone anyways. So this one, queen f6, another misplaced piece. When you have a battery like the queen and the bishop try to do a checkmate, you don't assume your opponent allows checkmate. Don't never assume that. In the game of chess, you really are advised not to expect your opponent to play blunder. You want to expect your opponent plays the best move. That way you play the best responses, the best plan going forward. That you know that your plan is based on your opponent's best resistance, and you can verify that. It's like, okay, nevertheless, if they play the best moves, I'll be good out on top. But this one, if white plays the best move, black is actually worse. So c3 takes in d4, knight e5 again. This is a bad misplaced piece. One thing that you need to know, Jalen, is that when you're attacking, which you probably should be, you don't trade off pieces too much. If you trade off all your firepower and your attack, and you basically imagine this, if every piece except for the pawns and kings are off the board, you lose because you're down a pawn, and you're going to be having nothing to attack him with. So don't get rid of the firepower you have, and you're going to be asking for trouble. You want to preserve that knight for later attacking purposes. But knight e5 happened, a trade happened, and now we have to move the queen like a dancing queen. That's not good. So this one. But h5 was really, not so good. Bishop c5 right now will say that king is the middle. The king is in the middle, and it's really a problem. So h5, there, bishop c5, rook d8, queen to e3, and, well, queen to b8 was awkward. Maybe something like rook c8 or rook d7, more ideally, to get out the threat of this. It's basically just fine, but queen b8, it was actually, this is a misplaced position again. So it's not about the opening, it's basically you're misplacing your pieces. You're not doing the attack that you probably need to do, but this is not even the biggest mistake you've made in the game. This is a lot of inaccuracies, misplacement of pieces, but the worst move is yet to come from black side. That you can't do this way. b5, a5 is good. Rook takes h5, and this is where we have to take a snapshot and say, never do this under any circumstances, no matter what opening you have. Never play something like f6. I'm not trying to be funny like Ben Feingold, never play f6, but this is actually a serious contention that if you have a king set in the middle, you don't want to push the only defensive pieces, the pawns, to go up and be, let's say, watered down and not really helpful. Because if the pawns go up, the king is actually buried and really able to be attacked. So f6 is really devastating blunder. And also, that's not the worst thing. If this one is coupled with king f7 is the only move, then this is where we have Jalen played the absolute blunder. f5. Again, come in the center again. Don't push the pawns to just defend the king up. Just trying to just block g6, of course, but f5 is actually, if anybody knows the Gotham Chess fan base, they know exactly what to do now. And this is sacrifice the rook and f5. And this is actually the best move. This one, and the opponent was mature enough to not take the pawn, but instead doing checkmate by force. Bishop c4, king e8, and queen g6 checkmate. This is the game in the sense. So what do you need to learn from this game? Don't chase your openings. Don't chase it from going to, let's say, blame the hippo. I lost because I chose the hippo. No, you chose because you have your king exposed, let's say, voluntarily, and also you misplaced the pieces when you have initiative, and you didn't have the right focus because you trade off your attackers. These are the things that you need to change no matter what opening you choose. And if you do that, you'll be able to have better results. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy this one. If you guys want to have me analyze your own games, put in the comments down below if you have any games you want me to review, and I'll see you next time. Hey, check this video out to make sure that you get more important information to bring your chess to the next level.